What up, roomies? Sometimes your life can hit a point where everything feels like it's falling apart, and the only question left is whether you're gonna keep going or not. Our guest tonight, Reverend Shaun Robert Grant, an author, award-winning actor, a spiritual leader, whose journeys took him from one of the lowest moments to helping others transform their lives through mindset, spirituality, and self-awareness. Sean, welcome to Neighbors. Thank you for being on, bro. I
Thank
really
you, man.
appreciate you, man. So, but
Thank you for
besides
having
that,
me,
yo,
man.
I thank you for being on, bro. When I got when I got your message and I like read like the your story, it was like, yo, bro, like this is some serious, this is serious. Like you've been through things that people are very afraid to talk about,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
very open about it. So like
Mhm.
just for like reference, let the roomies can you like if you want, can you like share that experience with everybody so we could kind of like start there and then we could
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah
You're referring to just suicidal ideations, or what do
yeah
you? Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah
I've struggled um, mightily with suicidal ideations, just deep suicidal thoughts for most of my life, and it didn't really birth itself uh, like in a major way until I was about 22. And so I can remember, being in college, playing college football and injuring myself, and my entire identity was just completely shattered. Like who I thought I was for the 22 years up to that point completely changed because football was no longer a reality for me.
yeah
And on top of not being able to do that, to add fuel to the fire, I flunked out of school. And so I found myself back home trying to figure out life, trying to figure out, okay, what do I do now?
yeah
And so as that was unfolding, I found myself falling into a really deep, dark depression and trying to just make sense of things, but nothing was really budging at the time. And like when you're younger, you you try to rush through things as opposed to just
yeah
being patient, letting God just kind of move you through it and letting you work through it and stuff like that. But it was none of that for me. I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I want to like get past this time in my life, but it felt like it just went slower and slower and slower. And the slower it went, the deeper into depression that I fell.
I
And
got that.
so I turned to drinking, man. It just I had to numb that pain some kind of way because I was just lost. And in hindsight, looking back on it, if you ever find yourself in a place where you lost, that's the best place you want to be because that means that something new is
Mm,
trying to emerge through you. You just kind of have to let it. You got to let life take its course. But at the time, I just I wasn't aware of that, and
yeah
so I was trying to force it, and that what you resist persists. And so one night I found myself going out to the nightclubs in New Orleans, and I mean I was putting them back, just one right after the other, trying to numb the pain. And it was about 1:30, and I just kind of sat there thinking to myself, man, like how different is my life now than it was 2, 3 months ago? Like I had NFL aspirations. I had, so much of a vision for the future, and it just got wiped out. And so I'm sitting there and I'm drinking and I'm just thinking to myself, and this wasn't the first time I thought about this. This was brewing over and over and over. And because I'm a huge advocate for suicide and like also, deeply spiritual, I've discovered when it comes to suicide and committing
yeah
suicide, it's just not the physical act. What happens is you kill yourself mentally and you kill yourself emotionally a multitude of times before the physical act begins to manifest. And that's what was happening to me in that moment. It's just like that became the tipping point pretty much at that moment. I said, you know what? I don't know if I can do this anymore. So I had my last drink. It's about 1:30 ish, 1:45 or so, and I drove out to Lake Pontchartrain, which is the lake that surrounds the city of New Orleans. And, it was a cool, brisk night. You can kind of see, your breath a bit because it was that cool. And so I kind of got out of the car, looked out, just started thinking about, man, I never got a chance to get married. I never got a chance to realize, my dreams of getting to the NFL. I never did anything. Like, how will my family be after I commit this act? And as painful as that was,
Yeah.
it still wasn't enough to stop me from moving forward with it. And so, I hopped in the car and I said to myself, I said, this is it. And I was going to run my car into the lake, which is
Oh
70,
my.
90 feet deep. And I was just going to end it all. And, so I'm in there, I turn on the car and I'm getting ready to rev it up and my phone rings. And yeah, my phone rings and I ignore it the first time. I was like, I don't want no part of it. And a moment passed. And like I said, I was getting ready to do the thing and it rang again. And so both times it was a friend of mine who had come into my life in, I think, a year previous, and we had gotten
Yeah.
close. And, she really was one of those type of people that just kind of gave it to you straight. But the second time I picked up and I was in tears and it was almost like she knew instantly what I was about to do. And she said, she flat out said, just don't be selfish. This is something that it could be so selfish. Think about how many people will be affected. Think about how many people love you and wouldn't want you to go through this and wouldn't want you to do this. You got to take a deep breath and you got to battle back. You got to battle back from this. Like, whatever it is, you can overcome it, but you have to decide that you're going to overcome it. And so she was very persistent and very, yeah, she was so forthright with the message she wanted to convey to me. And, we got off the phone. Well, as we were getting off the phone, she's like, promise me you won't do anything. Just at least tonight, just think about it. Don't do anything. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And, in that moment, there was like a deep sense of peace because I felt like finally somebody was hearing me and somebody was understanding the pain and the hurt that I was experiencing. Yet it didn't get all sunshine and rainbows.
Of course not. No, I get that. I get that.
Yeah,
But in hindsight,
yeah,
and I really don't bring up religion too much in the pod, but
yeah.
God was looking out. You know what I mean?
Amen.
He sent you that message for you to chill out and really
Yeah,
contemplate what you was doing because your time wasn't up and you had other things you had to do in this world.
absolutely, absolutely, man. And so it was so interesting because things actually got worse after that, but I felt like I was stronger. I felt like because of that, I was more equipped to handle it. And, I went forward, I just kind of, bit the bullet and continued to work through it. And I mean, look, it came back a multitude of times. Like it came back over and over and over. I feel like I just, at the beginning of this year, finally got to the root cause of what was causing it. And, I'm finally at a place where I feel like I'm healed of it now, but I know without a doubt the purpose of that was for me to develop the compassion to be able to help other people who are going through something similar. And so I've just tried to be an advocate as much as possible for that to anybody who's suffering.
No, I got that. I got that. And this is like besides everything else that we're gonna discuss. Did you feel that because of the fact that you were finally heard, that finally somebody took the time? Because I don't know like your family arrangement. I don't know if like you're the oldest son or only child. You know how it goes, but
Yeah.
with boys, you know how it's usually a little harder. Trying
Yeah.
to step up to be like the patriarch of the family and all this other stuff. And then you had aspirations of going to the league.
Yeah.
So I could see how, those dreams being, taken away from you, kind of messed up your self image because you're like, all right, cool, I could get my, I could give my mama that house, I could do this, that,
Yeah.
and the third for my people, and I could, your mind was already on the level of, I could be the the person that levels everybody up around me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I could see how, when that was taken away from you, how that took your self image and it brought it all the way down.
Yeah.
But finally, when you got, somebody who actually heard you and not just like saw you, but actually heard you, how it gave you the strength to, continue going on,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man. You make a great point. And you know what's interesting is, and
What's
I
up?
think this is super important for guys, especially, and all of us,
Yeah.
but for guys especially, man, what I wanted more than anything else was to feel like I was loved. So I'm the third out of four boys. And as a child, I felt like I got kind of lost in the mix. Like I didn't get, like I used to get hand-me-downs because, mom's was raising us by herself, and she was like, this is all I can do right now. So, and I didn't get much attention. And then when my little brother came along, I felt like I got kind of lost in the shuffle. So for me, it was always like, how can I stand out? How can
How
I
could
like
how
how
can
can
you
I
shine?
be at the top, in
Yeah.
this pecking order? And I was relentless with it, man. And it just, drove me to different avenues to do things to make sure that somebody could see me. But ultimately, it was just like my inner child asking to be loved, asking to be heard, to be seen, to be embraced. And in that moment, man, that's, I feel like from divine intervention, I was embraced like I had never been in my 22 years. From a spiritual standpoint, at least, and also emotionally, it was just like it was everything I needed, because the amount of peace that came over me afterwards really stopped me from doing anything just detrimental to my life and then the lives of the people surrounding me.
No, I get you on that. And
Yeah.
it's crazy how like one person that just like sits down and like really gives you that attention,
Hmm.
even if it's just for a couple of minutes, or they have that intuition that something's wrong and they
Yeah.
give you that phone call or go check up on you. That one moment in life could, I don't want to say like this because it's kind of like cliche, but that one moment could set off a whole chain of events that lead
Absolutely.
you down your path.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Just that's all it takes is one person to hit one of those spiritual detours, and you're on a whole different path. Like I believe in parallel universes and all that stuff, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's the choices that decide what timeline we take.
Yeah.
And I one of my favorite shows on television, it's off now, but The Flash. I used to watch that, and I would love how you know
Yeah.
he would just change the timeline, but it was always based on his choices, which is a good
Yeah.
lesson, because whatever choice you make is going to determine how the path that your life takes.
No, it's absolutely true. And off topic, what do you think is better, DC movies or DC shows?
That's a good one. So I think of late, man, I gotta say the shows.
The show's been
Like
killing it. Yo,
Superman
DC
and
when it comes
Lois
to
was one of my top ones, man, and the Titans. I
yeah,
really
the
like.
Titans were really good.
Yeah, the movie. I like the
Mm,
Batman movie. Um, the most recent one. But like, yeah, some of the other ones, man, it's kind of like, I don't know.
no, I
I
feel
hope they
you.
get better. I
All
hope
I'm
they get
saying is they need some better writers up in the
Yeah,
studio.
yeah,
They definitely
totally,
do.
totally.
But
I'm
just going back, what has like that experience really taught you about life and like moving forward?
honestly speaking, I think you it's a couple of things. One, you don't have to have it all figured out. And the reason I was in that state, because I thought being taught by well-meaning adults, not even necessarily in my family, but just in the school system and just in coaches and different things, being taught by well-meaning adults that you had to have a plan, you had to figure it out, you had to get it done. And that, that doesn't happen for everybody. Not
Mm.
everybody's LeBron James who knows that they're going to be an NBA star by once they're 3 years old and they just start working towards that. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't happen for us all. So the first thing is you don't have to have it all figured out. The second thing is be as just supremely patient and compassionate with yourself, because all this is an opportunity. It's a signal that's really showing you, who you are internally, and it's helping you to build a stronger character that's ultimately setting you up for something really powerful. I feel like anytime we go through like super, super hardships, like just really, really difficult times, that's being used to help us to really kind of just open our hearts to be able to be kinder to other people, because we all go through it at one time or another. It's different races, but we're same race with different lanes.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to really kind of just embrace these experiences as much as we possibly can, because it really does help us to then give back to humanity, whether it's kids, whether it's friends, whether it's family members, whoever we encounter. you know, Ultimately we're here to show as much love as possible, I feel like, in being human beings.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And you gotta get another cliche saying that I'm about to say is that steel is forged through fire.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not everybody's LeBron James where they know they're gonna pick up a ball and just be
Yeah.
good and be great at that. People
Yeah.
have to experience life, see what journeys they come through, see what
Yeah.
paths is available, and you're gonna go through your ups and the downs. But the thing about it,
Absolutely.
and just like time, you gotta just keep pushing, keep going. But that doesn't mean not to work it out. You know what I mean? Not just
Right.
to leave it
Right.
there and forget it. And
Yeah.
that's why I feel that a lot of people kind of like stumble because they just
Hmm.
want to like go through their trials and tribulations and not on the back end not work it all out. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
And just leave it there. So
Yeah.
because I know you work with a lot of people that have gone through your situation. Do you see
Yeah.
that that's like kind of like the main thing that's going on? Like they're
Um,
not really like trying to work it out, but you know.
yeah, man. And I think like as a society, we've come to, and I can't speak for everybody, but I think the majority of people that I've encountered in these types of situations, we've kind of avoided pain. Like we've sort of found ourselves in this space where it would be harder to avoid pain at all costs. But pain is like the greatest stepping stone. Like pain and confusion, those are like just opportunities, just ready to thrust you into just new heights of your life, new types of energies and experiences and all. But because it gets uncomfortable, we sort of run away from it. We try to avoid it. And what you find is you sort of get blah. You sort of just life sort of doesn't give you, you know, that level of joy that it possibly could, because you decided to take on the growth. You decided to go and jump into the pain to realize, okay, it's a signal pointing me towards something, not necessarily out there, but within myself,
Yeah.
that's going to help me to be my best. And so when I can kind of like frame it like that, it helps people to kind of, okay, let me pull back the curtain and look a little bit closer. I feel more comfortable with it. What is it really trying to show me? Because once again, the misconception is pain is there to hurt me. Pain is there to make me suffer. Well, we only suffer when we reject what the universe is actually showing to us uh,
Mm.
by way of the pain. So I think once you can kind of get people to sort of see it from a different perspective, then it starts to sort of bring down the walls and the blocks and things from really seeing like ultimately it's a blessing.
I got you on that. And when it comes to like, because perspective is a mind state, right?
Yes. Hmm.
So, so how do you kind of like? help people shift from that I'm in pain, I'm in suffering, to my pain and suffering is more of a lesson for me to grow and overcome.
Yeah, that's another amazing question you got there. It's all about reframing, and basically what reframing is understanding first and foremost
Yeah,
the brain, the mind using the brain is always looking for something, right?
yeah,
This is why
that's a
they,
fact.
yeah, like your mind will go off and do some crazy stuff if it's not occupied, in a sense, with setting intentions, setting goals. And so when you realize that the mind is really just trying to fulfill whatever it is that you give it, you can start giving yourself the opportunity to give it ideas by asking it empowering questions. And one of my favorite things to do
Yeah,
is to give people a simple question, like something along the lines of, why is this situation empowering me? Right? Why am I so grateful to be within this situation now and learning from it? So as soon as I ask those questions, as soon as whoever I'm working with asks those questions, immediately the brain has already gone to try and figure out why that
yeah.
is. And when it does, it sort of drops that idea in, and it begins to make you feel, I don't say, yeah, I guess better emotionally, because that's what it comes down to. Like, we're feeling beings. And the only way to really change our feelings is, through our minds, but also through letting go of things that keep us stuck in those patterns. And it's just asking the right questions. Because if you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers for you, for
Yeah.
individually in your situation, and then that can lead to you feeling better. And once you feel better about the situation, then that's when you can kind of get a higher perspective, and you can begin to sort of pick apart what's really going on. It's hard to do
No,
that from a low place.
no, I definitely get that because of the fact that, and roomies, this is probably the most important part. When you're going through shit, excuse my language, when you're going through things,
Mm.
you know, you don't just try to like get past it.
Yeah.
If you gotta cry it out. If you gotta feel it out. But
Yes.
when you're done with all of that, you gotta change the perspective from a victim to
Yeah.
kind of like uh opportunist mind state, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
what opportunities does this situation bring to me, and what can I learn from it? And
Exactly.
also, how can I overcome?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You
I
know,
absolutely agree with you 100%. And you said something perfect. Emotions can paralyze us
yeah,
to not only the truth, but from moving forward to try to do anything. And so when we don't feel our emotions, when we don't, like you said, allow yourself to cry, allow yourself to get angry, if you got to get in the gym and box it out, box it out, but really expressing those deeper held emotions, man, it will put you in a place where, like I said, you're emotionally paralyzed and you can't move forward. And then eventually, it stagnates so much in your body, it starts to manifest itself physically. When it
yeah,
manifests itself physically, that's when we find we get sick. So it's like, just by embracing those things, emotions, loving them, processing them, feeling them, and then releasing them, like, it helps us all across the board. But I think it's so important to do that first. You've got to come to terms with whatever it is you're feeling from an emotional standpoint.
that's a big fact because of the fact that through the podcast and just through my own research, a lot of doctors are now are connecting the dots between your
Yeah,
emotional state and your physical state.
yeah,
And they like, at least the people I've spoken to, they always
yeah,
use this analogy is, we get diseases, but it's dis-ease.
yes, yeah,
You're at dis-ease, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And your emotion and the stress levels, that mixes with like your cortisol level. I'm not a doctor,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but basically your
Just
mental
speaking truth,
state
though.
but your mental state affects the body. and you know
Absolutely.
you can release hormones, you know, when you're stressed out and when you're depressed
Yeah.
and all this stuff, and that prevents you from moving forward, and which
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm going to say something, and it can be triggering for people, but, really, cancer is the body attacking itself
yeah,
because somewhere along the line, an idea has been implanted in the subconscious that goes against the body being 100% completely effective and working how it needs to work in order for everything to be optimal from a state of health. And so I've always felt like, once I learned that it's just the body attacking itself to try to help itself, it's just an idea. And if you can change that idea before it gets too late, you know, that can really sort of open things up and heal you, of course, if that is the path that's laid out for you. But it's really important to see the mind body connection and how these things sort of correlate to what's going on in our, in the material reality.
not definitely because your perception is your reality.
Yes.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So like when you have those subconscious thoughts of, you know, being, you know, sick or things not getting better, that
Mhm.
really like, messes with your perception of the world and also your current reality. And
Agree.
and I know you're an expert when comes to the law of attraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is kind of like more correlation with it
Mhm.
when you're in like that funky state, right?
Yeah.
You're not attracting good things to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like what how important is it for a person to actually feel and I don't want to sound I've been sounding cliche this whole entire episode, so fuck it. Right?
You're good, man.
So, so like,
You're being
you
honest.
have to have quote unquote positive vibes in order to, manifest or attract, the positivity or the reality that you
Mhm.
truly want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so like
Oh,
how
sorry.
does
Go
one
ahead.
oh I'm sorry. So how does like one go from like, feeling that funk to actually like attracting the things that they want or like, you know, leveling up?
Yeah, that's once again just fantastic questions. The biggest thing with the law of attraction is to understand like it's working all the time,
Yeah.
all the time, and so it is picking up every single thought, every single vibe that you're offering. Now, for a lot of folks, that's kind of scary because it's like, well, that's too much responsibility. But if you look at it from the standpoint of, man, you know what? I can turn this thing around at any time. Let me jump on the train. And the most amazing thing about it is when you do start to turn it around and you start to see these things sort of work out, because with the mind, it's always the pattern, right? And the
Yeah.
beauty of reality shows us what's going on internally inside. Like somebody comes up and somebody is mean and angry to us, like that's just a reflection of what's happening internally. And
Yeah.
so I think if you are like to sort of change things around, to sort of really move back into a positive state of vibration, a positive state of being, the biggest thing is just start thinking, you know, positive, empowering, soul stroking thoughts, right? Like
Yeah.
I always say for us to really alter what the law of attraction is doing in our life, in a positive capacity, it's got to hit the core, like the core of the soul. It's got to touch on such a deeper level because then it can really, sort of transform things. And the only way I've ever been able to see it be done like that is through pure blown gratitude and compassion. Those are like the two most powerful, like, if you're in a state like say, where I was, what I needed more than anything was to be grateful for where I had come from or where I had went through to be at that point in time, and then to feel compassion for myself and for everything I had experienced up to that point in time. And so those are such visceral feelings in the sense that they, like your cells in your body, they sort of act based on how you think. So how you feel all of a sudden begins to affect every cell in your body, and then the new cells developing. And if it's a positive feeling, it'll just begin to expand, and you can kind of feel that expansion. Like
Yeah.
you feel it energy wise first, and then you kind of feel it on the outside, and then you find like, okay, my body feels better, and not only my body feels better, but then I have more energy. And if I have more energy, it means I'm tapped into my creativity, and my creativity allows me to do these things that I didn't have the energy or capacity to do before. And it just all of a sudden it just starts moving. It starts moving, and then the opportunities come, right? And so it's all getting back to, once again, the mind body connection. Think the most positive thought that you can, and usually the most positive thought is either based in compassion or based in gratitude. Whatever you can feel authentically, sincerely, genuinely connected with that, you're on the high road.
Nah, nah, I feel you on that. But I think a lot of people, when they start, hearing conversations like this one,
Yeah,
and they think about the law of attraction or manifestation or anything, they
yeah.
just think happy thoughts, right?
Mhm.
They like, oh, I gotta think positive. I gotta be in my highest vibration. But what they usually miss out is the action behind it,
Yes,
because
yes.
the mind, you could think all the positive things you want in your mind,
Mhm,
but what I've noticed is that your mind doesn't put it fully into effect until you start acting upon it,
mhm,
until you start living it out.
mhm.
Do you feel that? Do you see that like a lot of people don't? They try to like manifest, or they try to like attract, and they just they think that's it, and they don't really like act upon like what their intuition is saying, or like what they're drawn to.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think here's my interpretation of how I feel like the universe works. And I've seen this in my own life a multitude of times. And the reality is, let's say, you want to manifest a
Yeah,
million dollars, and you get to that place where you can connect to the energy of having $1 million. Now, what the universe will do in like not even time, but it will see exactly where you're vibrating. And if there are any blocks, the first thing it's going to do is bring those blocks to you, right? So those blocks could be in thoughts, right? It could be like when you say, oh man, I would absolutely love to have $1 million right here, right now. It'd be terrific. I'm so happy and grateful and satisfied and appreciative that I have $1 million. And then the block instantly comes, if there are any blocks, says, well, you never made more than this amount, right? And that's the universe's way of bringing you your desire, because it doesn't discriminate, right? It's bringing your desire, but what it wants to do first and foremost is bring you the blocks, right? It's
yeah,
going to bring you the blocks. So you get past the thought block, and then all of a sudden, the next day or 2 days from now, you get a bill larger than anything you've ever expected, but you still got to hold that vibration of, I have, I'm so happy, grateful, and appreciative that I have $1 million. And so where people get tripped up is they think, oh man, the universe is full of it, man. It didn't hear me. It's just sending me bad stuff. That's all it's doing, sending me bad stuff. No, it's sending you the bad stuff because it wants you to clear the blocks to get to the point where you can have the very thing that you say you desire and that you want for yourself. And I think that's where the action gets crippled, because the secret in a lot of ways, as wonderful as it was, it made it seem like
yeah.
close your eyes, Aladdin's lamp.
And everything's there.
Yeah,
But
but
that's the perception people have like, and
yeah,
this is what grinds my gears about the whole manifestation movement and all this.
yeah,
The majority of people think, oh, think happy thoughts and things are going to happen. No, it's not like that. The brain and your mind is a crazy thing where it's
yeah,
like you could think all the positive you want, but if it doesn't see it happening,
yeah,
you're just going to regress.
yeah.
And
And
like,
yeah.
no, you were saying?
I was saying your brain is going to keep you safe. Ultimately, it's going to
Yeah,
stay as close to the deepest inherent subconscious beliefs that you have. So that's another thing I think that was missed out. Not sorry, not to interrupt you, but that was another thing that was missed out upon. And the secret is that you got to clear those blocks. You got to let go of that stuff that's conflicting. To really get to the point, because you can't get it if you're not resonating with that same energy, and that has to happen. The only way that can happen is when you let go of anything that's resisting it.
I got you. I got you. And like, and for the roomies, can you explain like how like the universe works in that manner? Like how it
Mhm.
presents you things, but it also presents a challenge as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, getting back to the idea of manifesting money, manifesting anything. So you have an idea, and what happens is your conscious mind conveys the idea to the subconscious. The subconscious mind, meaning the mind that just basically runs everything second nature. They say 95%, but I really feel like it's 100%, because
Yeah.
our habits are just based off of everything we've incurred um, throughout our entire lives.
Yeah.
And it's also connected to the all that is that gives us the access to be unlimited beings and things of the sort from a divine standpoint. So what happens is the conscious mind has an idea. It gives the subconscious mind an idea. The subconscious relays it to the universe. The universe says, okay. Universe never discriminates, never says no. That's a very important point to remember. It never says no about anything. Anything you ask, the universe will give it to you, because the universe is impartial, and it only works based on vibration, frequency, and the identity that you resonate with. So once that subconscious mind, once it has that belief and that idea, it gives it to the universe. And the universe says, okay, does the energy match up? Now, while it's asking if the energy matches up, it's sending out all of these signals to potential vibrations that could match up to make that thing come to full fruition, right? So it's sending out a multitude of signals, probably an infinite number of signals all over the world. So this thing can be realized, because ultimately it's not trying to hold back anything. Life
Yeah.
helps life, right? It
Yeah.
promotes,
No, no, that's a
expansion.
big part.
Yeah, for sure. And so once it realizes that, it starts to come to you. Now, whether it comes fast or it comes slow, it depends upon how much faith we have, um, the doubts we have, and also how quickly and easily we can let go of the blocks that would stop that thing from coming. And
Yeah.
so the biggest thing you can do in reference to that is, one, not get so attached to it that you begin to repel it, because once again, universe, we can't lie to it. It knows exactly, like, if I say I desire money, but at the core of my being I'm desiring money because I'm afraid of going broke, the fear of going broke is stronger. So I'm going to get more fear of going broke. But if I say I desire money and I want to use it to be expansive and to help the world, and that is my true feeling, my true essence of who I am, or the energy that I'm vibrating, the universe is going to bring that to me, and it's gonna bring it with speed, as long as I don't have any blocks around it coming. And that's the biggest thing, is getting around the idea of how it can show up. Like when you just, and you'll know you have it, you'll know it's there when you feel it and you feel that peace, and the energy of that thing feels like it's already here. Once that feeling kind of comes over you, you let it go and you let the universe decide how it's going to show up.
I got you on that. And how does like someone go from like that survival mode where a lot of their like subconscious thoughts are fear based to like
Mhm.
a thriving mode where all their where they start changing their their subconscious thoughts into like more of a positive vibration and more into like
Yeah,
a thriving mode versus you know being in survival mode versus like
yeah,
being in like abundance.
yeah. No, for sure. That's so. The biggest thing with the subconscious is we have to understand it works off of repetition. So whatever it repeatedly hears, it's going to plant a seed, and that seed is going to grow inside of you, and then it's going to grow in your reality. So in knowing that, it's important that we just start planting as many positive seeds as possible. And I'll give you an example of how I did this when I first like really became passionate about this, and still even to this day. I would play, certain intentions and affirmations on repeat, and just I would listen to it over and over and over again, even throughout the night as I went to sleep. Because when I go to sleep, the gatekeeper, my conscious mind, that could potentially say, "Oh, that's no, you're full of it. That's not right," is going to sleep. So whatever is playing is going straight into the subconscious mind, right? That's one of the quickest ways you can sort of change things around if you're stuck in that survival mode situation. Another thing is just writing down. Like I started doing this. I used to write down 70 times, I am supremely confident within myself. And the way for it to work is not to do it in a sense to all of a sudden get confident, but to write it down and feel like it's already happened. Because what's going to happen is if you can feel like it's already happened while you're writing it down, it's gonna sink in faster in that deeper mind. And that's all you want, because once it's in the deeper mind, the universe has it. And then the universe can start its work of really bringing it to you. And the third thing to understand with the subconscious, anything that has a strong emotion behind it is going to trump anything else. This is why we always talk about, from a self-help, self-improvement, new age, all that stuff standpoint, but really self-awareness, self-transformation. If you can find a strong enough why for why you're doing something and why you want it, to the point where it creates emotion, where it gives you goosebumps, where it makes you want to run through a wall, it's just finding that motivation. That it's stronger than anything that you can do as it relates to getting your deeper mind something that it can act on. Because, and we see it all the time, these like people have these gifts and these talents, and they're like, all-star, singers and entertainers and athletes, and their gift is so strong. That why behind that gift is so strong. It transcends all obstacles. It transcends anything they might face that would ever even stop them from realizing that thing. And it's because on some level within them, they've connected emotionally. And when they lose that, a lot of times you see the gift sort of kind of goes away, the passion is removed, they move on to something else. But as long as that emotion and that passion is working behind whatever it is that you want, like if you can find the very why for why you want $1 million and it's strong enough, you will undoubtedly get there when that emotion is there. And then doing those other things just sort of adds to it, to the manifestation.
No, I got that. And like the one thing that I picked up on was
Mhm.
kind of you have to already believe
Yeah.
that you already have it, because it's not
Mhm.
about chasing it. Like,
Yes.
like in life, of course, like if you're striving for something, you're gonna be chasing that. But
Mhm.
subconsciously and emotionally, I don't think you're supposed to chase it. You're supposed to like kind of like already believe that you're there, so that way
Mhm.
reality just catches up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great point. And I'm glad you make that point, because another thing to understand is that universe works based off of identity, right? It doesn't give us necessarily what we want, but it gives us who we are and the
Yeah.
energy that we're vibrating at the moment. So whatever you can do to embrace the identity of the thing you want, of the whatever it is, you want to focus on having that identity, because then it can come so much quicker, so much, faster. And that ties into those beliefs. And a lot of times with the beliefs, like I said, it can bring up some blocks to the surface because there's some conflict. But if you can stay firm in what it is that you're wanting to manifest and what it is you're wanting to bring forward and materialize, you can move past those, and before you know it, you got what you want.
True. I'm not. No, that's extremely true because it's like, how can I say? It's like when you want something, the universe is going to give you the opportunity to obtain it. You know
Yes,
what I mean?
every time.
So so it's like what I'm seeing is that even though you have to like work through certain blocks, you have to kind of like regulate yourself a little
Hmm.
bit because you have to get into like the frequency that of what you want.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what so my real question is that, right, how could how could someone go from like having the mind state of I can't to I can,
Hmm.
and really deeply embedding that in themselves? Because yet again, I see this through like my families and my friends. Like they're like, "Oh, I want to do this or I want to do that,"
Yeah, yeah,
but there's no action behind it, or there might be a little bit of action behind it, but they're not, obtaining the results, and people get real frustrated with that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the biggest thing is just identifying with it, and I'll give you my experience as an actor.
Yeah.
So nobody in my family ever did anything close to it. And one of the hardest things was when I said I'm going to be an actor, because I didn't have any type of examples. I got doubt from myself. I got doubt from the family. I got doubt from everybody imaginable.
Yeah.
And it was because I had no real experience to identify with it. And so the very first thing that I did is I'm going to go sign up for a student film so I can actually identify what it is and what it's about to be an actor. And as soon as I did that, it was on the lowest tier level, something switched, right? I did my first student film, got paid nothing, police officer. It was great, but I was on set. I was being an actor. I was going through everything that, comes into play with that. And I was just building confidence in myself. And it's once you get that confidence, you say to yourself, okay, I can actually do this. And then that resonates: faith, trust, belief, understanding, identification to the universe. It's like, okay, now you're finally identifying as an actor. Guess what? You can do this. Creates a feeling. Next thing you know, it leads to another opportunity, an even greater opportunity, which then once again solidifies the idea, okay, I'm identified with being this. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. It was at that point, and it came all the way from the idea of, well, I'm not sure if this is a possibility for me. Like, well, nobody has ever done this before. And it's just finding a way to say, how can you identify with it, with where you are right now? Because if your brain's not strong enough to all of a sudden just change a belief, it needs evidence, right? And it's
Yeah.
like you said earlier, you need to take action to get that evidence, so then it feels normal. Once it feels normal to the brain, once it feels normal to the subconscious, it takes over. It's like, all right, I got this. I can work this now. But until then, it's like, this feels foreign. I don't know if this is safe. I don't know if we should be doing this. And it starts having reservations. But as soon as you get to that point where it's like, okay, what action can I take? Right? Other than, you know, manually trying to change my mindset, what action can I take that allows me to identify with that thing? And that could, I mean, it can be as simple as just being a good person, being a more
Yeah.
positive person. How can I identify with being a more positive person? Well, let me read an article. Let me write an article. Let me write something down in my journal that's positive. And all of a sudden, I'm doing an act, which then tells the universe identification with the very thing that I'm desiring. And then it just
I got
starts to
that.
build. Yeah, it starts to build.
I got
Yeah.
that. And like, do you find that it's easier for people to kind of like venture off into the unknown versus like things that they already know? Like, for instance, like let's say you come from a family of doctors,
Yeah.
and then you want to be an actor. Do you
Mhm.
find that people it's simpler for people to to trail the unknown versus having the standard of like, oh, my brother's a doctor, my dad's a doctor, my mom's a doctor. Now I have to live up to those standards.
Yeah.
And do you see that having like having close examples kind of like is detrimental to your own like subconscious and like your own way to identify?
Yeah, it varies with different people, but if you're in a film, sorry, if you're in a family of doctors and you deviate from that, you're going to get a ton of resistance
Yeah,
unless you remove yourself from that completely, which most of us can't with our families.
yeah,
But you're going to get a lot of resistance, and that's kind of getting back to how strong your why is to do that thing, right? If it's strong enough, it'll overcome the family resistance, and you'll prove all of them wrong. But if you're afraid, and a lot of people encounter this, if you're afraid of what your family will think of you because you ventured out and you were unsuccessful by chance, it'll cripple you. It'll paralyze you like before you do anything. But it's like if you can find the reason why you're doing something, and it's something as simple as it's in my heart. I got to try it out.
mm,
If it doesn't work out, then I'll come back and be a doctor, right?
yeah.
But I need to do this. I'm feeling drawn to this. You can just tap into that. That in itself will help you to sort of transcend and just overcome that resistance because you know a lot of times, not everybody, but most people can't get their minds wrapped around something that they know nothing about, that they've never seen done by anybody close to them. So what do? They flat out reject it, and they reject anybody that comes to it. So it's kind of realizing that can happen when it's so far fetched outside of what anybody in that tribe has encountered before.
I get that. And
Mm.
have you heard the term of you have to make people believers, or the people
Mhm.
closest to you, you have to turn, doubters into believers? Do you
Yeah,
see that do you see that a lot of people have that within themselves, that they have to turn themselves into their own personal like cheerleader and believer before,
yeah,
actually
yeah,
like getting in the resonance of like abundance and like actually attracting what they want?
yeah. It's finding the purpose in it, and you have to be your biggest fan. You have to believe in yourself the most. Um, and sometimes, like for me, the biggest driving force I had in a lot of the things I did early on, and even like well into my 30s, were, you know, I just want to be seen. I want to be loved by my family. Like they've never taken the time to really see me for who I am. They've only wanted to see me for who they thought I was.
Yeah,
And my my just relentless drive and desire to prove to them that I was so much more is what really helped me to accomplish a lot of what I accomplished. Now, that's unhealthy in a lot of ways. But once you can actually deal with those emotions and sort of process them and take care of them and love them, you can sort of flip it to where you find, okay, what's my drive? Like,
yeah.
what makes me go for this thing, and what's going to help me to continue to come after it day after day? And so you really have to think about what fires you up, what gets you
Mm.
fired up for yourself, because that's always going to carry you. It's going to carry you through everything.
I got that. And what's the importance of like taking like something like I want to be seen and
Mhm.
making that like kind of, I don't want to say the fuel, but kind of like the motivation to like pursue forward?
So you mean like how do you flip that? Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Or
Like how do you flip like a past trauma, or like how can I say it? Like I don't want to use trauma because it has so many negative connotations, but
yeah,
um like a self doubt, subconscious thought that you're not good enough, or not worthy
Mhm.
enough? How can you like flip that into like fuel to motivate you to grow?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is looking back on your successes, because even though you've had that self doubt, you've also had these opportunities where you have, you know, risen beyond that to really do some amazing stuff. And everybody, I feel like in their life has that, where you can say, you know what, even though I had my doubts, I overcame this. I stared it in the face, and I still had the courage to go and do what it is that I wanted to do. And so you start stacking those past experiences, and what you find is it creates an emotion. It creates an emotion of gratitude, a feeling that says goes from, oh well, I don't really necessarily know, to, you know what, I've done this already. Like when I was
Mhm.
getting over the need to be seen, what I really understood was I just want to be seen so I can give back, so I can help people. If I have a platform, I can help them in some way, shape, or form, you know, live a happier life and live a life that feels native and authentic to them. And once I realized that, it sort of flipped it, and that whole self-doubt. And the most important point of it was when it stopped being so much about me, about me, about me being seen, and then it became me giving what God has gave me and expressing that. Everything just kind of, like, from a doubt standpoint, it just diminished. Like, so much
Right.
confidence was born after the focus was taken off me and was put on expressing this higher purpose of helping humanity in whichever way I've been gifted with.
I got that. And I've noticed, right, and this is a common theme that 2026 has been presenting to
Yep.
me, is that people become happier when they do acts of service, when they're actually looking out for their people, when they're not putting themselves first. Of course, the saying
Yeah.
goes, if you can't help yourself, you can't help no one else, right?
Right. Right.
But in thought,
Mhm.
when you put yourself, not last, but when you put your family first, or your community first, or you just do acts of service for people, right? Do you find that people feel more fulfilled with that, and it's easier for them to like use the law of attraction or manifest the things they
Mhm.
want?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a saying that goes, the universe can't deliver if you're looking through the blinds. And so when all the focus is on us, we tend to fall into, like, the area of attachment.
Yeah.
And then attachment leads to anxiety, and it leads to impatience, and then leads to, oh, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? Right. So one of the things the universe predicates itself on, and you can see it all in nature, you see it in us, you can see it in everything, is balance. Right. It wants to balance itself out. So if it finds you're giving excess importance to something, right, it moves things out of balance. So in order to balance ourselves back to a place where everything is level and everything is working effectively and precisely, a great way is to take the attention off of us, our goals, and instead of saying, okay, what can I get? You move from that place of, what can I give? What can I express? Who can I help? All of a sudden, that's a shift into abundance, because you go from pretty much, in some cases, when it gets to attachment and anxiety, you go from a place of lack to a place of complete abundance, when you say, okay, you know what, I have everything that I need, everything that I was created for is internally inside of me, and I'm equipped and I'm ready. What can I give? What can I express? Who can I help?
Yeah.
And I've seen, in my own experience and experience with other people, it's that shift that oftentimes will bring the very thing that we've been wanting for however long it is, because we finally stepped into a place of, we're in overflow and not in something where, okay, we're lacking, so to speak. So it's just, it helps us to shift everything back into balance, taking the pressure off of ourselves, taking the pressure off of needing to have something right now, and then putting the focus and attention on, you know what? we actually have everything we need right now. We're not lacking anything. Everything that's coming in is overflow. We can act from that overflow and experience a sense of peace. And when you got that peace, you got balance, you got tranquility. That's when you really sort of become like this manifestation magnet where things just kind of come with ease and effortlessness.
Now I get that, and you sparked a thought in my head, right?
Mhm.
I think abundance comes from the flip of me to we,
Yes.
and follow me here, right?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about yourself, when you're saying, yo, I'm this, I'm that, I need to do this for myself, I need to do that, right? We're kind of still in that like survivor mode because we're trying to get ourselves there.
Yeah.
But when we flip the script to we and how can I help other people,
Yeah.
achieve things, we're already projecting that sense of abundance because it's no longer how can I obtain, how can I, fill my pockets or whatever.
Yeah.
When it comes down to, all right, how could I help you out? Because I know in the long run, if I help you out, you might get a connection, something might
Yeah.
happen where you might return. Not, I don't want to say like return the favor, but you might say, hey, yo, hey, I got this buddy here that he'll be great for your podcast, or I got, a connection to this that, you should really come meet these people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. 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 I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I think the greatest experiences of abundance when we go into something without a need for expectation. And if
Yeah.
we don't need an expectation or an expectation to get something back, we're moving with the abundance of the universe because that identity, that energy says, regardless, all is well, regardless, I'm taken care of, they're taken care of. I'm here to just flow and express as freely as possible and bring the best energy that I can. And that in itself is the gift, right? That's the gift that you get in return. But because that creates such an expansive, large, vibration and energy, it then magnetizes, things that represent abundance, whether it be a money standpoint or connection or an idea or like whatever it is, because you're resonating at that frequency, the law of attraction is working. It just, you sort of just magnetize that other, the symbols of abundance, so to speak.
I'll for you, Sean. And before we, wrap everything up, I always
Mhm.
ask all the guests this.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, or a message to the roomies?
Yeah. And I've discovered this recently. Um, and I feel like it's the most powerful thing for all of us. And, I struggled a long time, and this was really a part of my battle with suicide, um, my battle with not feeling good enough. And what I came to the conclusion that I want to share with everybody is that no matter where you are, no matter what you've done, no matter what you hadn't done, no matter how good or bad or how much of a success or failure you think you are or what anybody has told you, no matter how much love you've lacked or anything, you're worthy because you exist. You're worthy because you exist, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't valuable enough in the eyes of the creator to come here as a human being and offer the gift that you've been bestowed with. And that in itself, you have to do nothing else. That in itself makes you worthy. So when somebody tries to make you feel unworthy, somebody tries to make you feel less than the amazing, dynamic, powerful being that you are, know that you are worthy because you exist. And whatever it takes to get to that point, whatever it takes to get to that place, to know that, to accept that, to believe that, when you do, everything opens itself up to you. And you can live from a place where you don't need anything else outside of yourself because you know you are worthy because you exist, simply because you exist.
Fire. That's beautiful. And roomies, remember, flip the me to a we, and the universe will open up a couple of doors for you. So stop playing around, get up off that ass, and go do your thing. With that being said,
Absolutely.
peace out.